On the edge of known space, where starlight grew thin and silence stretched like an endless ocean, the planet Viridia turned slowly beneath a pale yellow sun. It was a quiet world, green and wet, with forests that climbed mountains and rivers that cut through valleys like silver threads. Humans had come here not for war or riches, but for peace. They built small towns, tended crops, and watched the stars without fear. But that peace shattered one evening when the sky burned. It began as a flicker, a bright point of light where no star should be. Then it grew, streaking across the heavens like a falling sun, trailing fire and shadow. Alarms blared in the colony's central hub. People ran outside, shielding their eyes, hearts pounding. Some whispered prayers. Others grabbed tools, ready for anything. What crashed into the northern tundra was no meteor. It hit the ice with a sound like the world breaking open, deep, thunderous, shaking the ground for miles. Trees bent, snow flew into the air like shattered glass, and then silence again, heavier than before. Hours later, a human patrol moved through the frozen forest, boots crunching on frost. They were led by Lena Brooks, a woman in her 30s with sharp eyes and a calm voice. She wasn't a soldier, not really, just a xenolinguist who studied alien signals and old ruins. But on Viridia, everyone wore many hats. Beside her walked Mira Dawson, barely 25, a medic with steady hands and a stubborn streak. They'd been sent to investigate the crash, not to fight, but to understand. What they found stole their breath. In a crater of melted ice and blackened rock lay a creature larger than a freight hauler. Its body was covered in scales that shimmered like oil on water, shifting from deep violet to blood red in the fading light. One massive wing was torn, the bone jutting through torn membrane. Smoke curled from its nostrils, not from fire, but from exhaustion. Its eyes were closed, but even in sleep. It trembled, and kneeling beside it, pressing a glowing hand to its chest, was a woman. She was tall and slender, wrapped in a cloak woven from what looked like starlight and spider silk. Her hair fell like liquid silver down her back, and her ears tapered to fine points. She didn't look at the humans at first. She only whispered words that sounded like wind through ancient trees, her voice low and sad. Lena raised a hand, signaling the others to stop. No one drew weapons. No one shouted. They just watched. The woman finally turned. Her eyes were the color of storm clouds, gray, deep, and full of things no human could name. She studied them without fear, without anger. Only weariness. Who are you? Lena asked, keeping her voice soft. The woman didn't answer right away. Instead, she placed a hand over the dragon's wound. A soft blue light pulsed from her palm, and the torn flesh began to knit together, slowly, painfully. Mira stepped forward, medical kit in hand. Let me help. The woman's eyes flicked to her. For a long moment she said nothing. Then barely a whisper. You do not fear him? No, Mira said. He's hurt. That's all I see. A strange look crossed the woman's face, something like surprise or maybe grief. She nodded once. The humans moved closer. Mira knelt beside the dragon, scanning its vitals with a handheld device. The readings made no sense. Heart rate slower than a hibernating bear. Body temperature near freezing, yet energy signatures off the charts. This creature shouldn't be alive, and yet it breathed. Lena crouched near the woman. What is his name? Kyle, the woman said. And I am Alara. She didn't offer more. She didn't need to. The way she said his name, like a promise, like a prayer, told Lena everything. Back at the colony, news spread fast. A dragon had fallen from the sky. An elf woman guarded it. The humans were helping them. Not everyone agreed. Some colonists wanted to call the nearest defense fleet. Others argued they should destroy the creature before it woke. It's a monster, one man shouted at a town meeting. Look at the size of it. One swipe of that tail could flatten our whole settlement. But Lena stood up. We don't know what it is, but it's wounded. And she's protecting it. That means something, Mira added. If it wanted to kill us, it would have done it already. It's been lying there for hours, weak, alone. In the end, the colony voted, not by law, but by heart. They would shelter Ilara and Kael for now. That night, under a sky full of unfamiliar stars, Ilara sat by Kael's side in a reinforced barn on the edge of town. Humans had brought blankets, heaters, even buckets of clean water. No one came too close. They watched from a distance, curious but respectful. Lena brought her food, simple bread, fruit, broth. Ilara accepted it with a quiet nod. "You're not from this galaxy, are you?" Lena asked. Ilara looked up, her gaze distant. "We are from many places, and none. Why are you here?" "Because they found us again." "Who?" "The ones who call him a monster." Before Lena could ask more, a warning siren cut through the night. Red lights flashed across the colony. Voices crackled over comms. Ships, unknown, armed, had entered orbit. Not human, not friendly. Within minutes, a message broadcast across every channel, in every major language of the settled worlds. "Surrender the abomination known as Kale. He is condemned by the Triune Conquered. Failure to comply will result in planetary quarantine and orbital cleansing." The humans gathered in the square, faces lit by the glow of emergency screens. Fear hung thick in the air, but so did something else, anger. "They want us to hand over someone who's hurt?" Mira said, fists clenched. "After we just helped them?" Lena stared at the sky. "They don't see a patient. They see a weapon." Inside the barn, Ilara stood. Her expression hardened. She placed a hand on Kale's snout. His eye opened. Golden, slitted, filled with pain and ancient sorrow. "They will not take you," she whispered. Outside, the humans made their choice. Lena walked to the colony's main transmitter. She activated an open channel, her voice clear and strong. "This is Lena Brooks of Viridia Colony. We have the individual you seek, but he is under our protection. He is wounded. He has done no harm here. We will not surrender him." Silence followed. Then a cold reply from orbit. "You are harboring a Class Omega threat. Your defiance will be noted." Mira joined Lena, standing shoulder to shoulder. Others came too, farmers, teachers, engineers. They didn't carry guns. They carried shovels, wrenches, data pads, but they stood together. "We're not giving him up," Mira said into the mic, her voice shaking but firm. "If you want him, you'll have to go through us." High above, the alien ships hovered like vultures. In the barn, Kale let out a low rumble, not a growl, but something softer. Almost like gratitude. Ilara watched the humans through the open door. For centuries, she and Kale had run, hunted, feared. Every species they met saw only claws and fire, never the heart beneath. But these humans, small, fragile, short-lived, saw something else. She didn't understand it. Not yet, but for the first time in a very long time, she didn't feel alone. The night deepened. Snow began to fall again, soft and quiet. The humans stayed outside, forming a loose ring around the barn. Not as guards, as witnesses. As friends. And somewhere in the dark, the stars watched and wondered. The days after the warning from orbit were tense but quiet. The alien ship stayed high above Viridia, watching, waiting. They did not attack, not yet, but their presence hung over the colony like a storm cloud. Everyone felt it. Children played less. Adults spoke in low voices. The field still needed tending, the machine still needed fixing, but eyes kept drifting to the sky. Inside the reinforced barn, Kale grew stronger. Slowly, painfully, but surely. His breathing deepened. The torn wing no longer bled. Ilara never left his side. She spoke to him in soft tones, words that sounded like wind through old trees or water over smooth stones. Sometimes she sang. The humans who brought supplies, food, clean water, medical wraps, would pause at the door listening. They did not understand the language, but they felt its weight. It was old. Older than cities. Older than stars. Lena came every morning. She brought not just supplies, but questions. Not loud ones. Not demanding ones. Just quiet, careful words. "Where did you come from?" she asked one day, sitting on a crate near the barn wall. Ilara looked at her. Her eyes were tired but clear. "From before your kind walked upright." Lena nodded. She did not push. She had learned that with Ilara, silence often spoke louder than speech. But Mira was different. Mira wanted answers. She checked Kale's vitals twice a day, scanning his massive body with her medical tools. The readings confused her. His cells regenerated at impossible speeds. His blood carried energy signatures that matched no known element. And his brain was more complex than any human's, layered with structures that seemed to process not just thought, but time, space, even emotion in ways science could not explain. "He's not just a big lizard," Mira told Lena one evening as they walked back to the colony center. "He's something else." "Something more," Lena agreed. And Ilara isn't just his keeper. She's tied to him, like they share one life. Meanwhile, the outside galaxy did not stay silent. News of Viridia's defiance spread fast. The Triune conquered, a union of 3 powerful alien species, controlled most of the settled systems. They prided themselves on order, on safety, on eliminating threats before they grew. And Kale, they claimed, was the greatest threat in known history. Footage began appearing on public networks. Grainy old recordings showed a massive dragon tearing through a fleet of warships, planets burning, cities falling. The narrator called him the Skyburner, a destroyer, a monster that fed on fear and fire. The humans of Viridia watched it in the town hall. Some looked uneasy. A few muttered that maybe they'd made a mistake, but Mira stood up. That footage is edited. Look at the angles. The timestamps don't match, and there's no sound, no voice, no reason, just destruction. Lena added, even if it's real, it doesn't show why he did it. Maybe he was defending someone. Maybe he was forced. No one had an answer. But the doubt lingered. Then something unexpected happened. A small ship landed on the edge of the colony, not from the Concord, but from a neutral trader. Out stepped a human from another world, a journalist named Cora Mills. She had heard the story and came to see for herself. She asked to speak with Ilara. At first, Ilara refused. But Lena convinced her. She might help others understand, Lena said. Not everyone believes the Concord. Ilara agreed, but only if Kale was present. Cora entered the barn with wide eyes. She had seen many wonders in her travels. Crystal cities, ocean worlds, AI gods, but nothing like this. The dragon lay half-curled, one golden eye open, watching her. Ilara stood beside him, calm but alert. Cora did not bring a weapon. She brought a recorder. Why do they call him a monster? She asked gently. Ilara was silent for a long time. Then she said, because they do not know the truth. What is the truth? Long ago there was a hunger in the dark. Not a creature. Not a being. A void that ate stars, that swallowed time. It had no name, but we called it the Hollow Maw. It woke when civilizations grew too loud, too proud. It fed on their fear. She paused, her hand resting on Kale's scale. Kale was not born to destroy. He was born to hold the line. He and others like him, guardians, fought the maw when it rose. They sealed it away, deep in the folds between worlds. But the seal needed a heart, a living anchor. Kale became that anchor. His pain, his strength, his very life, it keeps the maw sleeping. Cora's voice was soft. And the battles. The fleets he destroyed, they were not innocent, Ilara said. They tried to break the seal. They wanted the maw's power. They called it a weapon. They tried to wake it. Kale stopped them. At great cost, Cora recorded every word. When she left, she promised to tell the truth. But the Concord moved faster. Bounty hunters began arriving. Not in big ships, but in stealth craft that landed in the wilds. Mercenaries from a dozen species drawn by the reward posted for Kale's head, or his heart. The colony's perimeter alarms started beeping more often. Patrols found footprints that didn't belong to humans. Strange symbols carved into trees. One night, an attack came. 3 figures in dark armor slipped past the outer sensors. They carried sonic blades and neural disruptors, weapons designed to kill without leaving a trace. They headed straight for the barn, but the humans were ready. Mira had rigged motion sensors. Lena had organized night watches. And the colonists, farmers, cooks, teachers, had trained with whatever they had. A tractor driver used his machine to block a path. A school teacher set up tripwires with bells. When the intruders neared the barn, a floodlight snapped on. Shouts rang out. The fight was short and messy. The humans did not win by strength, but by surprise and numbers. One bounty hunter was stunned by a jury-rigged taser. Another fell into a hidden pit. The third fled into the woods. No one died. But the message was clear. Viridia would not be easy prey. Afterward, Ilara stood at the barn door, watching the humans tend to their wounded. One man had a cut on his arm. Mira stitched it up while he joked about his first alien battle. Ilara turned to Lena. Why do you protect us? We are strangers. We bring only danger. Lena looked at her. Because it's right. Because no one should be hunted just for existing. And because you're not what they say you are. That night something shifted. Ilara began to trust them. She showed Lena ancient symbols carved into Kale's scales. Maps, warnings, songs. Lena, with her knowledge of dead languages, started to piece them together. They told a story not of war but of sacrifice, of a dragon who gave up his home, his freedom, even his name, to keep the universe safe. Mira, meanwhile, made a discovery. Kale's healing was slowing, not because of his wounds, but because the seal was weakening. The hollow maw was stirring. Distant stars in the northern sky had begun to flicker just for a second, like a heartbeat. "He's running out of time," Mira told Lena in private. "If the seal breaks, it won't matter if the Concord kills him or not. The maw will wake, and it won't stop at Viridia." Lena felt cold. "What can we do? I don't know," Mira admitted. "But Ilara can't hold it alone. She's fading too. Look at her hands, they're getting colder. Her voice is weaker." They looked toward the barn. Ilara sat with her back against Kale's side, eyes closed, breathing slow. She looked less like a warrior, and more like a woman carrying a weight too heavy for one soul. The next morning, Lena called a meeting. Not just the colony leaders, everyone, men, women, children over 12. They gathered in the square, breath fogging in the cold air. "We have a choice," Lena said. "We can keep hiding. We can hope the Conquered leaves us alone. Or we can do more. We can help them, not just protect them, but truly help." Mira stepped forward. "Kyle isn't just surviving. He's holding back something worse than any army. And he's failing. Ilara is failing. But maybe we can share the load." She explained what she'd learned. About the seal. About the maw. About how life energy, will, courage, even love could strengthen the bond. "It's risky," she said. "We don't know what it will do to us. But if we do nothing, everything dies." Silence followed. Then a young woman named Jess raised her hand. "I'll try." An old farmer nodded. "My grandkids deserve a sky without monsters." One by one, hands went up. Not all agreed. Some were afraid. But enough said yes. That evening, under a sky full of watching stars, the first human volunteers entered the barn. Ilara watched them with wary eyes. But when Mira stepped forward and held out her hand, Ilara took it. A soft light bloomed between them. Kyle stirred, a low hum vibrating in his chest. Outside, the Conquered ship still waited, but inside something new began to grow, not fear, but hope. And for the first time in centuries, the Skyburner did not feel alone. The Conquered did not wait long. 3 days after the first human volunteers linked with Ilara and Kale, the attack began. It started with silence. The usual hum of orbiting ships cut out. Then, without warning, the sky split open. Energy beams rained down, not on the colony center, but on the northern ridge where the barn stood. Trees exploded into ash. Ice turned to steam. The ground shook like a drum. Lena ran from the command post shouting orders. Mira grabbed medical kits and sprinted toward the impact zone. Colonists scrambled to shelters, but many stayed outside, forming lines with whatever they had. Tractors, mining drones, even old construction bots. They were not soldiers, but they stood like walls. Inside the barn, Kale rose. Not fully, he was still weak, but enough. His massive head lifted. His wings, though torn, spread wide, casting a shadow over the humans gathered around him. Ilara stood at his side, her silver hair whipping in the wind, her eyes blazing with something between fury and sorrow. "They will not take you," she said again, this time to the sky. The Concord's message came through every speaker, every screen, every comm unit on Viridia. Final warning: surrender the abomination, or be erased. Lena activated the colony's main transmitter. Her voice was steady. "We choose neither. We defend." Then the real assault began. Ships descended, sleek, black, shaped like blades. They fired not just energy weapons, but sonic pulses meant to shatter bone and mind. But the humans were ready. Using repurposed mining lasers, they shot back. Farmers redirected irrigation pumps to flood trenches, slowing enemy landers. Engineers jury-rigged old satellites to blind the Concord's sensors with static bursts. It was chaos, smoke, fire, screams, but also courage. Mira dragged a wounded man behind a rock wall, her hands slick with blood. "Hold on," she told him. "We're not losing anyone today." Near the barn, Jess, the young woman who had volunteered first, stood with a group of teens, operating a drone swarm they'd built from scrap. The drones buzzed like angry bees, distracting enemy scouts, drawing fire away from the main group. Inside the barn, the link deepened. Ilara had taught the volunteers how to connect, not with machines, but with touch, with breath, with shared will. They formed a circle around Kale, hands on his scales or on each other. Mira was at the center, her mind open, her heart steady. She felt it, the seal. A thin thread of light stretching into the void, fraying at the edges. And beyond it, something vast and hungry stirred. "We have to give more," Mira whispered. One by one, the humans pushed deeper. Not just energy, memories, hope, love for their homes, their families, their world. Kale shuddered as their feelings flowed into him. His scales glowed faintly, a soft gold spreading from his chest outward. Outside, the battle raged. A Concord dropship landed 50 meters from the barn. Soldiers poured out, tall armored figures with faceless helmets and weapons that hummed with deadly intent. They moved in perfect formation, silent and sure, but they did not expect what came next. The ground beneath them erupted, not from bombs but from roots. The forest itself seemed to rise against them. Vines snaked around legs, trees bent like arms, knocking weapons aside. It was not magic. It was Viridia, alive, angry, defending its own. Lena watched from a ridge, stunned. The planet? It's helping us, no one knew why. Maybe it was Kale's presence. Maybe it was the humans' unity. Or maybe the universe itself had chosen a side. Back in the barn, Alara collapsed. Mira caught her before she hit the ground. The elf woman's skin was cold, her breath shallow. "The seal, it needs more," Alara gasped. "But I have nothing left." Mira looked at the others. Their faces were pale, sweating, but their eyes were clear. "We have enough," Mira said. She placed her hands on Alara's chest and Kale's side at the same time. The others followed. The circle closed. A pulse of light burst from the barn, not blinding, but warm, like sunrise. It washed over the battlefield. The Concord soldiers froze. Their weapons flickered and died. For a moment they saw not a monster, but a dragon cradled by humans, all glowing with shared life. One soldier lowered his weapon, then another, but their commanders did not care. From orbit, a new ship arrived, larger, darker, shaped like a claw. The Concord's flagship. It powered up its main cannon, aimed not at the barn but at the entire northern sector. They would burn it all to ash. Lena saw it on the scanner. Her heart stopped. "They're going to glass the whole area." She ran toward the barn, shouting for everyone to evacuate. But no one moved. Mira looked up, tears in her eyes. "We can't stop it. Not with weapons." Then Alara spoke, weak but clear. "There is another way." She turned to Kale. "You must rise. Not to fight. To shield." Kale looked at her, then at the humans. A deep rumble came from his chest, not fear but resolve. Outside, the Concord flagship fired. A beam of pure annihilation shot toward Viridia, white-hot and silent. But before it hit, Kale leapt into the sky. His wings, still healing, caught the wind. He flew not away but straight into the path of the beam. At the last second he curled his body, wrapping his wings around the barn, around the humans, around the very ground beneath them. The beam struck. Light filled the world. But instead of destruction, something strange happened. Kale's body absorbed the energy, not all of it, but enough. His scales turned white-hot, then cooled to deep blue. The excess energy scattered into harmless plasma bursts that rained down like fireflies. The Concord flagship went silent. Its systems overloaded from the feedback. On the ground, the humans stared up, breathless. Kale landed heavily, trembling but alive. Smoke rose from his hide, but his eyes were bright. He let out a low, steady hum, the sound of protection, not rage. The Concord soldiers on the ground dropped their weapons, not because they were ordered to, but because they finally understood. This was not a monster, this was a guardian, and the humans were not his captors. They were his family. In orbit, the Concord commanders argued. Some wanted to press the attack. Others refused. "We were wrong," one said over the comms. "He is not the threat. The threat is what he holds back." But it was too late for debate. From the edge of the system, new ships arrived. Not Concord. Not human. Scouts from other worlds. Species that had heard Cora's broadcast, that had seen the truth. They came not to fight, but to witness and to help. On Viridia, the humans tended to their wounded. They shared water with the surrendered Concord soldiers. They brought blankets to Alara, who slept now, her head resting on Kale's paw. Mira sat beside her, holding her hand. "You're not alone anymore," she whispered. Lena stood at the edge of the ridge looking at the sky. The conquered flagship was retreating. The smaller ships followed. The immediate danger had passed, but they all knew the real enemy was still out there. The hollow maw stirred in its prison. The seal was stronger now thanks to the humans, but not unbreakable. And the maw was learning. It was testing the edges of its cage, pushing against the light. Kale lifted his head and looked north toward the stars. His golden eyes narrowed. He knew. The war was not over. It was just beginning. But this time, he would not fight alone. Around him, humans stood, not as a shield, but as partners. Farmers, medics, teachers, children. They had no armies, no empires, no ancient powers. But they had something the Concord never understood. They had heart. And in the quiet after the battle, as snow began to fall again, Kale let out a soft sound, almost like a purr. For the first time in his long life, he felt safe. Not because he was strong, but because he was loved. The peace after the battle was fragile, like thin ice over deep water. The Concord ships had pulled back, but they did not leave the system. They watched from the dark, silent and waiting. Other species came too, some out of curiosity, others out of fear. Word had spread across the stars. On Viridia, humans had stood with the Skyburner. They had not killed him. They had healed him, and in doing so they had changed everything. Inside the colony, life tried to return to normal. Fields were replanted. Homes were patched. Children played again, though their games now included dragons and brave medics. But everyone knew the calm would not last. The real enemy was not in orbit. It was beyond the edge of sight, beyond time itself. The hollow maw stirred. At first, it was small things. Stars in the northern sky blinked out for a second, then returned. Clocks ran backward for no reason. Some colonists woke from dreams they could not remember, their skin cold, their hearts racing. Animals grew restless. Birds flew in circles. Fish jumped from rivers as if fleeing something below. Mira noticed it first. Her medical scans showed strange energy spikes in the air, pulses that matched no known source. She showed the data to Lena. "It's not radiation," Mira said. "It's like hunger, a signal from something that wants to be fed." Ilara confirmed it. She stood on the ridge at night, her face turned to the void. "The seal is holding," she said, "but the maw is testing it. It knows we are weak. It knows we are few." Kyle lay nearby, his massive body coiled like a sleeping storm. He did not speak, he never had in words, but his presence was a comfort. When the strange pulses grew stronger, he would hum, a deep sound that seemed to steady the air itself. Lena gathered the colony leaders. Not just humans now. A few of the surrendered Concord soldiers had stayed, asking to help. One, a tall being named Vare, spoke with a voice like stone grinding on stone. "We were wrong," he said. "Our records were lies. We saw only destruction, not duty. With their help, the humans built new defenses, not just weapons, but wards. Using Ilara's knowledge and human tech, they wove energy fields around the northern zone, powered by solar arrays and the shared will of volunteers. It was not perfect, but it bought time. Then came the dreams. One night Mira woke screaming. She had seen a place with no light, no sound, no end, only endless falling. When she told Ilara, the elf woman's face went pale. "The maw is reaching through the seal," Ilara said. "It feeds on fear. The more we fear it, the stronger it grows." "So we stop being afraid," Mira said. Ilara looked at her. It is not that simple, but Mira was already moving. She gathered the volunteers, the same ones who had linked with Kale before. "We need to go deeper," she told them. "Not just share energy, share courage, share hope." They returned to the barn. Kale lay still, his eyes half closed. Ilara joined them, though she was weaker than before. Her silver hair had streaks of white now. Her hands shook. They formed the circle again. Hands on scales, on shoulders, on the earth itself. Mira led them, not with commands, but with memory. "Think of your home," she said softly. "Your first sunrise on Viridia. The smell of rain on soil. Your mother's laugh. Your child's first step. Hold that. Give that." One by one, they did. A soft light grew in the center of the circle, not bright but warm, like a campfire in the dark. Outside, the strange pulses slowed. The birds stopped circling. For a few hours, the maw was quiet. But it was only resting. Days later, the sky tore open, not with ships, not with fire, with silence. A patch of stars simply vanished. Not blocked, not hidden, gone, and from that nothingness a ripple spread, distorting light, bending time. Trees near the ridge twisted, their branches curling inward as if trying to escape. Cale rose instantly. His wings spread. His eyes glowed gold. Alara ran to him. "It is coming." Lena activated the emergency alert. "All hands. The rift is opening." This was not an attack from outside. This was the enemy breaking through from within. The colony scrambled. Engineers powered up the energy wards. Medics prepared triage zones. Farmers brought their families to the central bunker. But many stayed outside, standing with Cale, with Alara, with each other. Ver and his former soldiers formed a line beside the humans. "We stand with you," he said. The rift widened. From the void, a shape began to form. Not solid, not liquid, but a shadow that drank the light around it. It had no eyes, no mouth, but it watched. It knew. Fear spread like frost. People trembled. Some cried. Some froze. But then Mira stepped forward. She walked right to the edge of the distortion where the air shimmered like broken glass. She did not carry a weapon. She carried a small plant, a seedling from her garden, its leaves green and bright. She held it up. "This is life," she said, her voice clear despite the shaking in her hands. "You cannot have it." The shadow paused. Behind her, Lena began to sing. A simple song, one her grandmother used to hum. Others joined, humans, conquered soldiers, even the children. Their voices were not strong, but they were together. Kyle let out a deep, steady hum. Not a roar. Not a threat. A lullaby. Alara raised her hands. Blue light poured from her fingers, weaving with the humans' voices, with Cale's song, with Mira's tiny plant. The rift shuddered. The shadow recoiled. For a moment it looked almost confused. Then it began to shrink, not because it was defeated, but because it was denied. The maw fed on fear. But here there was none. Only unity, only love. The rift closed with a sound like a sigh. Stars returned to the sky. The ground stilled. Cale lowered his head, exhausted but calm. Alara sank to her knees. "Mira caught her." "You did it," Mira whispered. "No," Alara said, her voice faint. "You did." In the days that followed, something changed in the galaxy. Ships arrived, not to fight but to learn. Species that had once called Cale a monster now sent envoys. They asked how they could help. They brought gifts. Rare crystals that amplified energy, ancient texts about cosmic seals, songs from their own worlds meant to soothe the dark. The humans shared everything. They taught others how to link, not with force but with trust. They showed that strength was not in claws or cannons, but in standing together. Cale became a symbol, not of terror, but of protection. He flew over Viridia now, not as a prisoner, but as a guardian. Children waved when he passed. Farmers left out bowls of water. Even the wildlife grew calm in his presence. One evening, Lena stood with Alara on the ridge. "Do you think it's over?" Lena asked. Alara looked at the stars. "No, the maw will try again." "It always does. But we're ready now." Alara smiled. "A small, rare thing." "Yes, because you taught us something we had forgotten." "What's that?" "That no one has to carry the weight alone." Below them in the valley, lights glowed from homes. Laughter rose on the wind. Cale lay near the barn, his great head resting on his paws. Mira sitting beside him, reading aloud from a book. The galaxy watched. And for the first time in a long time, it felt hope. The final test came not with warning, but with silence. One morning the stars stopped shining, not all of them. Just the ones near the northern edge of the sky. They did not fade. They vanished as if erased. Then the silence came, a deep, heavy quiet that swallowed sound itself. Birds fell silent, wind died. Even heartbeats seemed to slow. In the colony, people looked up. They knew. The hollow maw was not testing anymore, it was breaking free. Kyle rose before anyone called him. His body glowed faintly, scales pulsing with soft gold light. He did not roar. He did not panic. He simply turned north and walked, each step shaking the earth like a slow drumbeat. Alara followed, though her steps were weak. Mira and Lena ran to her side, offering arms to lean on. Behind them came the others, humans, former Concord soldiers, envoys from distant worlds. They carried no weapons, only hands, hearts, and hope. At the edge of the tundra where the rift had formed before, the air twisted. Space itself bent like wet paper. From the tear, darkness poured, not black, but the absence of everything. Light died where it touched. Time stuttered. A rock near the rift aged 1,000 years in seconds, crumbling to dust. The maw was not a creature. It was hunger given form. It had no mind, only need. And it needed everything. Kyle stopped. He lowered his head and let out a sound, not a growl, not a song, but something older. A call. From the colony, from the ships in orbit, from every corner of Viridia, beings answered. Humans linked hands. Conquered soldiers stood shoulder to shoulder with farmers. Children held their parents. Envoys from alien worlds joined the circle, adding their own voices, their own energy. Even the planet seemed to respond. Roots rose, rivers glowed, the very air hummed with life. Alara stepped forward. She placed one hand on Kale's chest, the other on the ground. Now, she said. Mira took her place beside her. Lena stood on the other side. Fur and Jess and dozens more formed a ring around them. They did not speak. They did not need to. They gave. Not just energy. Not just courage. They gave memory. Joy. Grief. Love. Every feeling that made them alive. It flowed into Kyle, into Alara, into the seal itself. The rift shuddered. The maw recoiled, but only for a moment. Then it surged forward, wider, deeper, hungrier. Kyle spread his wings. He did not attack. He opened himself and he sang. It was not a sound heard with ears. It was felt in the bones, in the blood, in the soul. An ancient lullaby woven from starlight and sorrow, from sacrifice and sunrise. Human voices joined it. Alien tongues added harmony. Even the wind carried the tune. The maw paused. For the first time it felt something other than hunger. It felt connection. It felt seen. The darkness did not vanish, but it softened. The edges blurred. The tear in space began to mend, not with force, but with understanding. Alara fell to her knees. Mira caught her. Hold on, Mira whispered. I am, Alara said, smiling through tears. I am holding on. Above them, Kale's song grew stronger. His body glowed brighter, not with fire, but with light. Pure, warm, endless. The rift closed slowly like a wound healing. Stars returned one by one. Wind returned. Sound returned, and then silence again. But this time it was peaceful. The maw was not destroyed. It could not be. But it was calmed, soothed, tucked back into its slumber, not by chains, but by compassion. Kyle lowered his wings. His light dimmed. He turned and looked at the humans, at Alara, at the circle of beings who had stood with him. He bowed his head, not in defeat, in thanks. In the days that followed, the galaxy changed. The Triune Conquered dissolved its war council. They issued a new decree. Kale was no longer a threat. He was a warden, a protector, and Viridia was declared a sanctuary world, untouchable, honored, free. Ships came not with weapons, but with gifts. Seeds from 1,000 worlds were planted in Viridia's soil. Songs were shared. Stories were told. Humans, once seen as weak and short-lived, were now sought after as peacemakers, as bridge builders. Lena helped create the first interspecies council, held not in a grand hall, but in the field beside the barn. Mira opened a healing center where medics of all kinds learned to treat not just bodies, but fear. Alara grew stronger. The shared life had healed her as much as it had Kale. She walked among the humans now, not as a stranger, but as family. She taught them old songs. They taught her how to bake bread. Kale stayed too. He did not hide. He roamed the hills, sometimes sleeping in the sun, sometimes watching over the colony at night. Children left drawings at the edge of his resting place. He never touched them, but they always disappeared by morning, kept perhaps in a place only he knew. Years passed. New threats rose as they always do. Pirates, rogue AIs, lost war machines waking from sleep. But whenever danger came, a message went out across the stars, and the answer was always the same. Humans came first, not with fleets, not with bombs, but with open hands and steady hearts, and often flying beside their ships was a dragon with golden eyes and wings like storm clouds. Other species followed, not because they were ordered to, but because they had learned. Monsters are not born, they are made by fear, and fear can be undone by kindness. On Viridia, under a sky full of stars that no longer blinked out, Life went on. Simple, quiet, strong. Alara sat on the ridge one evening watching the sunset. Kale lay nearby, his breath slow and deep. Mira and Lena joined her, bringing tea and stories. "Do you think it will stay asleep?" Lena asked. Alara looked at the horizon. "As long as we remember to sing," Mira smiled. "Then we'll never stop." Below them, in the valley, a child laughed. A bird took flight. The wind carried the sound of many voices, human, alien, dragon humming the same old lullaby. And somewhere in the dark between stars, the universe listened, and for the first time in forever it felt safe.